Matt Eilers, founder of Medalist Wealth Management and the CEO, is here with the year-end financial checklist to get you what you need to know before we head into next year. Matt, thank you as always for being with us. Why is right now the perfect time to really hone in on your financial planning?
Well, the time is now, really. I mean, it's crunch time. It's nearly Thanksgiving.
Right.
I mean, we're basically there if we think about that. But think of this as at the year end is almost like your financial 2-minute drill when it comes to being proactive, because we have the most clarity about income and expenses for the year. And before December 31st is really the biggest opportunity to take advantage of different tax strategies that are out there to save you money next year.
Yeah, give me an example of maybe one of those tax strategies that people might want to look into as we head into the next fiscal year.
Certainly, absolutely. So this is a really good time to proactively be checking out gains and losses in your account. So if you have an investment account, to take a look at what's called tax loss harvesting. So this is where potentially you could take advantage of an account that's down to offset the gain in another to minimize capital gains exposure out there. The other is required minimum distributions. Now this affects anyone that's 73 or older here in West Michigan that has some sort of a retirement account. This could be an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, anything that was tax deferred. If you don't make the required minimum distribution on time, what you're subjected to is a 25% IRS penalty. And I don't think anybody is looking for something like that.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, so there are several things to consider. And I mean, it really is crunch time when you're talking about the last couple months of this year. Hard to believe we are in November, and that's why it's really a really good opportunity to start looking at those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, approaching the end of the year, too, I know that a lot of thing on people's minds has to be holiday shopping. This is an expensive time of year, that's for sure. So what would you suggest to people being able to kind of manage their money during this time where a lot of it's going to be going out, unfortunately?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Here's my biggest piece of advice is don't go into high interest debt to buy that special toy for Christmas.
So don't buy the big Suburban SUV for your loved one.
Or maybe if you have the money to pay for it, do it. Yes, absolutely.
If you don't,
exactly. I would just avoid credit card debt. We call that Christmas credit card debt. Just avoid that at all costs. Obviously, America, especially West Michigan, is dealing with inflation, and everything costs more money when we're out at the stores. But just be mindful, because you don't want to dig a hole to start off 2026 just because of a Christmas gift.
Yeah. So we talked about what we should be doing with these next couple of months here. Let's talk about the market, because it really has been kind of all over the place when you look at the year as a whole. How should we be handling the market over these next 2 months? I mean, let's talk about first, if we're making gains or if the market is kind of plummeting a little bit.
So what you're just talking about there, whether we're making gains or going down, that's volatility.
Okay.
And the important thing to remember about volatility, which if you're sitting at home and you're wondering what volatility is, it's just how much something goes up and down is what that means. But it's important not to react emotionally. Because the stock market does, and I've said this on segments with you guys before, the stock market is a lot like a high schooler. It's overly emotional, and it tends to overreact. We don't want to do that as investors, because overreacting is what causes investors to buy high and sell low. And what it comes down to is having a disciplined strategy or a disciplined plan to how you're going to react to the volatility that's out there. Volatility can be a friend to the investor, especially if you're going to deploy things like dollar cost averaging, which is just being consistent and disciplined with how much you're going to invest into a position in the market. This is a good time to rebalance, to take advantage of some of the volatility that's out there. But I just urge investors not to make changes based off of a news headline. Try and be unemotional. And at our firm, one of the things that we deploy is something that's unemotional, mathematical, and methodical. We try to use data and logic so that we're not trading based off of headlines.
You kind of have that concrete thing to look back on when you're kind of doing some of these things. I'm just curious, because the market, I feel like, has been on so many different wavelengths throughout this year. In these next 2 months, as we head into 2026, and with all of the things going on right now, what do you expect the markets to do? Is there a way to be able to tell that? Or, I mean, we've got the expert here. What are you looking at, or what are you expecting?
I looked into my crystal ball this morning, and it didn't give me a whole... No, obviously, I think volatility is going to increase a little bit as we approach the end of the year. There's a lot of turmoil right now with uncertainty, around the government shutdown, around tariffs. around the Fed and the interest rate environment. And we're in an environment where the market is just going up and up and up and up and up and up. And I think everybody out there is just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. We know what goes up must come down eventually. Markets are cyclical. We cannot expect this to go on forever. And what is important is that you have a plan and a strategy for when the market turns, because it will at some point. We will see a correction, whether or not it's going to be a massive correction or a recession, God forbid. But we know things are going to change, and it's about having a disciplined strategy so that we can handle it when it happens. But I think that we're in for probably some increased volatility as we approach the end of the year.
But it's important to have that plan, so when the time is right, you can attack right away.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about volatility too, I know there's a lot of advice to give to those who are already into investing. But for somebody who's maybe looking at it, they're not into it quite yet, but they're interested in getting into it. With all this volatility, is this a good time to get into investing, bad time, or really is there no such thing?
I think it's a great time, honestly, because it all comes down to risk and how much risk you're going to take. And everybody's tolerance for risk is a little bit different. That's why it's important to uncover what that risk tolerance is for you, because that risk tolerance can steer you towards the investments that are appropriate so that the amount of volatility that you might experience is going to be something that you can handle emotionally. But I think it's a great opportunity because with volatility comes opportunity. If the market's down, things are on sale. If volatility causes things to dip a little bit, that's a good time to buy. If volatility causes the markets to go up, that's a good time to sell. So I think it's a really good time to get into investing, but I wouldn't go it alone. I wouldn't let ChatGPT or Google try and be your financial advisor and give you stock picks. Talk to a professional. They can help you figure out what's best for you.
Yeah, okay. And as the professional, let's say we get through these next 2 months. We're at the 1st of 2026. What is your recommendation for folks as we kind of try to get our foot on the first of the year there?
So, it's November right now, and we're talking about planning before the year's up. Use January as an opportunity to be proactive at the start of 2026 and make those moves that can set you up for the rest of the year, whether that's paying down high interest debt or building up your emergency fund or saving for college for kids or for your retirement plan. Use 2026 as that opportunity to make it a resolution to get on top of some of those big moves for next year.
Yeah, big moves, of course.
Yeah, New Year's resolution. There you go. Already figured out.
We're already talking about it, right? Happy New Year.
Yeah, there you go.
Happy New Year. 2 months out, but we are certainly getting prepared. Now, it's always important to make sure that everybody's kind of keeping tabs on their finances and really planning ahead. 2 months ahead, not a bad plan to start thinking about that. Now, heading into the end of this year and the beginning of the next, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that you would really want them to take away from this?
Absolutely. If you're watching this right now, don't wait until December 31st to do any of the things that we talked about. When it comes to the tax savings opportunities, contributions for your retirement accounts, whether or not you've contributed to an IRA or a Roth IRA or maxed out your 401k or 403b, talk to a professional now. Try and talk to someone before Thanksgiving because the clock is ticking, and before you know it, we're going to be at the end of the year, and a lot of those opportunities could be gone.
You speak of before you know it. We're also going to be in tax season next year at the beginning of the year, right? Can you give us one piece of advice right now to get prepared for next year's tax season?
Yeah, well, it's right now. Make sure you speak to somebody because opportunities for next year's tax season can be here before the end of this year that we want to take advantage of. And then next year, as we come into January, you're going to have a really clear understanding of what your income and expenses look like for 2025. Use those to put together some tax strategy for 2026. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act changed a lot of things from a tax landscape for these next 3 years, and it's important to uncover what those are for you and for your family to make sure that you're maximizing those opportunities next year.
Yeah, of course. Apparently, a financial advisor might help you out there doing that too. All right. Matt Eilers with Medalist Wealth Management. We do appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see you next month for our segment in December.
Great, guys. Thank you.
All right. It is 8:30. We're back in a moment after this.